every morning with drive. Being on the grind, know I had to survive. We had to win. Started from the dirt and the rubble. I had to be the needle that was popping your bubble.
Hello and welcome into the Rookie Prospect Profile Series. This is a Zilla Fantasy Elite production. Today we're going to be looking at wide receiver Luke McCaffrey in the Rookie Wide Receiver Machine Learning Models. Fantasy glory or fantasy bust? The fate of Luke McCaffrey hangs in the balance as our machine learning models deliver their verdict. Stay tuned for the analysis. Luke McCaffrey was drafted number 100 by the Washington Commanders. That is with the very last pick of the third round, so the very last day 2 pick in the league. And he comes into the league out of Rice University as a Rice Owl. He actually played college football for the Nebraska Cornhuskers and was their quarterback over there before transferring over to Rice to become a wide receiver. That's maybe why some of his numbers might look a little different here in the machine learning model. But let's look at some of those physical tools. He is 6'2", 198 pounds, decent enough size. Hand size 9.625 is in the upper percentiles there. I ran a 4.46 in the 40-yard dash, which is solid. Agility drills, 6.7 in the 3-cone is really good. Almost 4 flat in the 20-yard. Shuttle is also good. Vertical at 36, broad jump 121. Serviceable enough in terms of his burst score, so a decent physical and athletic profile here. So let's now dive into those first-year predictions for Luke McCaffrey. Pulling those up, we may see a shock here for some. Luke McCaffrey, the 16th wide receiver drafted in the NFL draft, coming in with a mean and median ranked 29th in the class at 3.63 and 3.53 respectively. Pretty poor there. Maximum output at 8.80 in his rookie season, 25th best in the class. How confident is it? Well, he's the 26th highest CV, right in line with his mean and median rank, 34.7%, just outside of the range of, hey, this is acceptable. Given that it's such a low number, not surprised by that particular value. Let's look at some of those comparables in year one to see who Luke McCaffrey might look like and see if we can't build out his first 4-year profile once we look at some of these other years. So hovering around 3 to 4 range in their rookie season, we have a whole lot of people. There's actually 44 people that all finished in between 3 and 4. So we're not going to list all of those people. We'll go into that maybe 3.3 to 3.7 range and give you some of those values. It's a little smaller of a range there. Chester Rogers and Alexander Hollins at 3.3. Isaiah Wright, 3.31. Devin Duvernay, 3.32. Jake Bobo last year, 3.35. Josh Reynolds and Cherone Peak, 3.4. Xavier Gibson last year with the Jets, 3.45. Ricardo Lewis, Josh Boyce, Devin Smith, all 3.5. Jalen Hyatt last year, 3.55. Amir Smith-Marset, 3.58. Jeff Janis, Javon Wims, and James Washington, all at 3.6. And Jamarcus Bradley at 3.67. JJ Arthega-Whiteside, 3.7. Nelson Aguilar, 3.8, Jalen Marshall, and Cameron Meredith also at 3.8. So that's your list of players. Any of those guys went on to be any good? Well, Nelson Aguilar did hit double digits, 3rd year and 4th year. Can we see something similar for Luke McCaffrey here? Otherwise, most of those guys don't hit double digits ever. Actually, all of those guys I listed never hit double digits in their first 4 seasons. Getting into that maximum 8.8. If he hits his ceiling outcome, what would that look like? Well, that's in the range of what Jackson Smith and Jigba and Michael Wilson did last year at 8.81. A little bit below that, Will Fuller, 8.7. Rashad Bateman, 8.63. A little bit above that, DeAndre Hopkins, 8.9. Robert Foster, 9. Derek Willis, 9.1. John Brown, 9.2. All right, now let's hop into his year 2, see if we can't start building out a profile here. And we see he does take a jump up in the mean and median, but his ranking at 25 still pretty low compared to his actual draft class spot or draft ranking, 16th overall in the NFL draft. So he's well below that in terms of the mean and median rank. Those are hovering around 5. Mean is 5.03, median 4.86, and then a maximum output at 11.55 is the 23rd best in the class. Again, hovering just over that 30% CV mark at 36.1. Getting into the 5 range in year 2, who do we see? Any similar numbers to year 1, or do we have some new players to discuss? Well, in year 2, Justin Hardy, Paul Richardson both hit 5 fantasy points per game. Freddie Swain, 5.09. Chris Moore and Josh Huff, 5.1. Devin Duvernay, 5.2. I think we saw him in the last one. N'Keal Harry, 5.28. And then a bunch of people at 5.3. Deontay Hardy, Marquez Wilson, Deshaun Hamilton. And then a jump up to 5.5 for Hunter Sharp. Just below that, 2 people at 4.9. Marquise Lee and Rashard Higgins. Tutu Atwell, 4.86. Olamide Zaccheaus, 4.85. Steven Sims, 4.78. Jerron Brown, 4.7. And then a bump down to Jalen Reagor at 4.59. So that's kind of the range you're looking at for the median outcome. We do see Devin Duvernay in this profile again. He was in the median range of outcomes for year 1. That maximum output, 11.55. Who is hitting that in their second year in the league? Deebo Samuel, 11.53 is the closest, and that is the 49th best ever in terms of the last 11 draft classes. A little bit below that, Corey Davis, Marquise Brown, Chris Godwin, Will Fuller. Those are all in between 11.3 and 11.53. Then Kenny Stills, 11.6. Jamison Crowder, 12. Henry Ruggs, 12.07. George Pickens, 12.28. So that's the maximum output range there for Luke McCaffrey in year 2. Considering his landing spot on the Commanders, I don't see him garnering number 1 target competition, but you never know what this guy does once he enters into the league. So will he improve here? Let's go look at Luke McCaffrey's year 3 stuff. And we see here that he falls again from the 5 range down to below 4 for the mean and median. His rank's now at 33 for the mean and 30 for the median. Maximum output at 10.12 is 33rd best in the class. And we see he's got the actual worst minimum output in year 3 at 40, or at least he did previous to me adding in one more person later on. Bub Means, I had forgotten him in this whole model, but at the time that this was made, Luke McCaffrey was the worst one in there. Assuming that 1.48 is now actually ranked 41st. His CV pretty high at 53.3 means the data is spread out pretty significantly across the board here for Luke McCaffrey, but just below 4, who is doing that in their 3rd season in the league? Well, we have Kadarius Toney at 4.08, Freddie Martino at 4. I'm assuming this guy is just a return man or something like that. Doesn't have a whole ton of playing time. I've never heard of that name, to be honest. Deshaun Hamilton, 3.89, Corey Brown, 3.8, Trey McBride, the wide receiver, not the tight end, at 3.7. KJ Hamler, 3.69. Terrace Marshall, 3.66. A little bit above this zone, Nick Williams, if you've heard of him, I have not. And Josh Reynolds, both at 4.1. We see Josh Reynolds make an appearance here again. Jason Moore and Paul Richardson, 4.3. Desmond Patton, 4.4. Aaron Dobson and Stedman Bailey, 4.5. So that's the range that you're looking at. Again, Luke McCaffrey seems like he is an avoid in your rookie drafts. Nothing to write home about in terms of what the machine learning model thinks of him. Could be partly because, he played quarterback for a long time, but we're not really looking at career college receiving stats here. We're looking more at an efficiency, receiving yards per team pass attempt in his 1 year, or the best year, I guess, basically there. And then his college target share, which should only be across 1 season as well. So shouldn't be dinging him for that stuff. And the model just doesn't like him in his profile here. So what do we see from him in year 4? Is there any glimmer of hope here? Yeah, look at that. We do see him bump up here. Look at that. He's kind of got the high floor, low ceiling profile here, where his minimum output is the 6th best in the class. Maximum output is 21st. That mean and median bump up into the top 10 actually at 7.56 and 7.64. So whatever it's seeing in his profile, it's saying, hey, this guy in year 4 really has his chance to break out. It is the second most confident in this result across the board for the entire class in year 4 at 21.0%, which is kind of surprising. Really saying, hey, Luke McCaffrey looks like he's not going to do anything years 1, 2, and 3, but that 4th year, he's really got a chance to break out compared to his counterparts. Might not be a huge breakout, 7-8 points, but that maximum at 12.68, one of the lower ones in the ceiling aspect at number 21 in the class. So let's look at that range of outcomes in between 7 and 8 here and see what players we find. Well, we have John Brown again at 7 here, Greg Dortch 7.07, Philip Dorsett 7.4, KJ Osborne 7.5, Josh Reynolds, we've seen him a few times, 7.77, Ryan Grant 7.9, same with Hunter Renfrow, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, 7.91, Traquan Smith, 7.97, and Cameron Meredith, 8.1 in their 4th season. So looking at that range of outcomes, that's not super useful for Dynasty unless you're playing in 14, 16 team leagues and you can start 3 wide receivers, or you have to start 3 wide receivers and have a couple of flexes. At that point, somebody like these guys would be, filling in some of those last roster spots in a very deep rostered dynasty league. How about that maximum output, 12.68? What does that look like? Well, that's in the range, actually, surprisingly or not. DeAndre Hopkins, 12.3. Jacoby Myers, 12.87. So it falls right in between there. Along with DeAndre Hopkins at 12.3, we also see Keenan Allen, Christian Kirk 12.21, Will Fuller 12.2, Adam Humphries 11.8, Mecole Hardman 11.73, Russell Gage 11.64, T. Higgins 11.47, and then a little bit above the Jacoby Myers range, Deebo Samuel 12.95, Marquise Brown 13, Kenny Golladay 13.16, DK Metcalf 13.34. And you're getting into the top 25 range there with Mike Evans at 13.4. So keep that in mind. That's kind of what the ceiling output for Luke McCaffrey looks like in year 4, despite being 21st best in the class. Some of those maximum outputs are got some pretty good names there in year 4. Kind of an interesting profile there. Looks like he does nothing for 3 years. Comes out of nowhere perhaps to have a little bit of a boost in year 4. Does that signal an opportunity to maybe make some, hey, year 3, I'm going to pick this guy up. I'm going to trade for him. He's going to have a semi-breakout year. Maybe I can trade him for a little bit more than the 5th round draft pick that I paid for him to acquire him. So that's going to do it for today's rookie prospect profile on Luke McCaffrey. This is presented by Zilla Fantasy Elite. Hit that subscribe button if you made it this far. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Bye.